We have full breakdowns on both the games tonight. We have breakdowns on yesterday's Maryland game. We're getting some of the season recap stuff out on the teams who have been eliminated from the Big Ten. Tons of coverage. I think we've had 5 stories up already this morning. So if you're into Big Ten hoops or just the NCAA tournament, definitely give us a read.
Thomas, I appreciate all your thoughts here throughout the college basketball season. Enjoy the action this weekend, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Will do. Thanks a lot.
Good stuff there from Thomas Beindit of BTPowerhouse. We've had a lot of good insight here into March Madness throughout these last couple of weeks of shows. So hopefully all of our listeners have been able to take advantage. March Madness is one of the most fun events here for people that are interested in this industry, for people that work in this industry. There's just so much going on. All-day basketball with the first 2 days of the tournament's fantastic. Of course, now we're getting down to what are the best teams in the country, at least according to how things have gone here throughout this bracket format. So, definitely a lot of exciting stuff still to come, with the Elite 8 games this weekend, the Final Four, and then, of course, the National Championship game on April 4th, which, by the way, I want to throw this out here again for any listeners that had some issues with whatever happened with Wednesday's broadcast, whichever day it was. All the days are running together for me right now. But the one that was condensed a little bit for our listeners that that listened right after the show, I double-checked that episode later in the day, and it had been fixed and uploaded properly, which obviously doesn't really help with the lead time for our show necessarily. But for those that may have missed the announcement, on beginning April 4th, we're going to go down to 1 hour per day. The plan is still to be on 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. We'll see, what our listener counts are, see if it still merits being on every day. I don't see why it wouldn't. We've got a very loyal listener fan base. We do appreciate every single one of you out there. But we will be going down to 1 hour broadcasts beginning April 4th. May take a little bit of time off in the summer, maybe around the All-Star break, some kind of thing like that. But, of course, once we hit June and July, we'll have NFL futures to discuss, college football futures to discuss, free agency in the NHL, free agency in the NBA, all those types of things. So I imagine we'll still have plenty to talk about throughout the summer, but maybe not 2 hours worth. And then also gets a little bit tougher to get guests. You've got kids out of school, you got people traveling for vacations, weather's getting nicer, all those types of things. So, it makes sense there with opening day, with the end of the college basketball season, to go down to a 1 hour broadcast. So that will be the format we'll go with. I do not know as of yet what our live recording time will be. Of course, some of that depends on our guests and the availability that they have. We may be doing some more pre-recorded segments, all that type of thing. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody is aware that we will be going down to an hour here beginning a week from next Monday. So you'll still hear from us 5 days a week, but just be a little less content. So we'll see how that new format works out. We'll see how it goes with getting guests. I don't know if I'll shorten the guest segments, if I'll still have the same length and just have fewer guests per show. Not really sure how all that's going to work yet. We'll have to see how that will play out. But as everybody knows, baseball is my favorite sport. So I hope to bring you a lot of good information there with betting on baseball. I had a listener question from Johnny Bravo Bet ask me about situational handicapping in baseball. So that's something that I'll be touching on here. Once the season gets underway, it's definitely a lot different than situational betting in the other winter sports, and the reason being you're playing series. You're playing 3 games in 3 days, 4 games in 4 days. You have 10-game stretches, all kinds of things like that. So, I will do what I can to talk about some situational betting in baseball. For me, that's a lot more about matchup analysis. It's a lot more about reading into the statistics, not necessarily in the month of April or May, but, as we get deeper into the season when some of these statistics reach points of significance, then those are things that I really dive into. So I will say, April and May traditionally are difficult months for betting on baseball because you just don't have the sample sizes. But as we get deeper into the season, I can use the sabermetrics that I like, the sabermetrics that I'm invested in, to form some stronger opinions about some of these games. So over the summer, I think you'll get a lot of great baseball information. Early on in the year, it can be a little bit tricky. I know that a lot of people like to bet underdogs, heavy underdogs in April, because some of these better teams are trying to get a feel for things. Some of these better teams historically get off to slow starts. So, we'll talk about all those different wagering angles of baseball season as we actually get into it, have some games to talk about, have some lines to talk about, those types of things. And I will also be doing 2 daily MLB articles at BangTheBook.com. One will be a picks and analysis article. I'm going to try and track that this year. I didn't really track it last year, but I'll look at some of my favorite games, touch on generally at least half of the games, if not more, with some in-depth analysis. We also have previews over at BangTheBook.com. The other one will be daily fantasy every day, to look at some of those things. And if any of our listeners out there are interested in any fantasy input overall, maybe you've got drafts coming up here late in spring training, that type of thing. If you're interested in any of that stuff, please let me know on Twitter, and we can find a way, to build some of that stuff here into the show next week. I think that would be, also a decent way to lead into the MLB season. So if you're interested in any MLB fantasy type stuff, whether it's daily or otherwise, let me know. If that's something that you want to hear, that's something I think that we could definitely integrate into the show. So reach out to us on Twitter. I'm Adam Burke. I'm at Skating Tripods. At Bang the Book is our site Twitter account. So if you want to hear some fantasy stuff, feel free to let me know. We'll be back after a quick note from DSI Sportsbook.
This segment of Bang the Book Radio is brought to you by BetDSI Sportsbook. DSI is one of the industry leaders in customer service, wagering options, and is offering Bang the Book listeners a $10 free betting account just for signing up. Simply sign up with a promo code BANG10. Again, that's BANG10 and get $10 free today at BetDSI.
Definitely take advantage of that offer from DSI Sportsbook. You can use that $10 on tonight's Sweet 16 games. You can use it on some of my NHL thoughts for this weekend, which will be coming up here in a few minutes. Or you can use it on Cole Ryan's top play tonight in his Friday edition of Betting the Buckets, which you'll hear right now.
Thank you, Adam, and welcome everyone to a very good Friday and another Betting the Bucket segment. Today I am ready and I am raring to go with some more fantastic NBA betting information, all in a rapid-fire format, which starts with a beyond-the-box score, with a little bit of reading between the lines in there. I'm going to talk calendar crunch, talk about the line value with the season winding down, second-half wagering. I'll talk playoff picture. All the way, I'll be featuring plenty of the members of the Buckets Brigade, my Twitter followers, and serve up a pick against the spread for the weekend ahead. Hold on to your seats. The segment is blazing quick with a pick, so let's get it going. Beyond the box score, I'm going to make this a little different, talk about some noise in the beyond the box score. It's very easy to get caught up in some side talk, some side information. When you're any sport in general, really, you can do this. But to me, the NBA, they seem to corner the market on this kind of thing. For example, last time I talked about LeBron and his Twitter and all that noise. But what they reported this week is that there was also a meeting that Tyronn Lue basically asked LeBron James to have a meeting with him because when they were getting absolutely hammered by the Miami Heat and they were down by 21 at the half, LeBron James was out there fraternizing with Dwayne Wade and just hamming it up with him all the time while his team was down by a bunch. And they basically focused on his leadership. Lue said, I just told him we can't have that, being down like we were and him being the leader. Just me being a competitor, I didn't like it. We had a long talk about it. It was good. He understood. He apologized, and he's been great. And that's great. Look, that's what you want to hear. You want to hear that a coach holds a star player, especially LeBron James' caliber. He holds him accountable. So you would hear that and think that the Cavs are about to right the ship. Then you throw on top of that LeBron's putting the social media thing aside earlier than normal. He's focusing on play earlier than normal, and you can get excited about the Cavs. But then what happens? What happens literally days later? He comes out and he publicly talks about teaming up with his friends as part of a dream team and how great that would be. And although far-fetched, of course he would love to do it. And how is that good for his team? To me, if anything, it's a slap in the face for his team. And then what happens? His team gets outscored about 14-3 in the fourth quarter against the Nets. Against the Nets? That's why, look, that conversation, that meeting is really much to do about nothing. There's really nothing you can get from that. And if you handicap based on noise, you could get in trouble. You really got to see it on the floor. And look, the playoffs are a whole different situation, whole different scenario. So that's when we'll get into when teams really want to flip the switch, as they say in the NBA, which is very hard to do But just that stood out to me for the Cavs. And then, of course, my good friends, the Bulls. Just when I buy into the Bulls and think they're going to turn the corner and do well, they're dropping back-to-back games against the Knicks when all these games matter. Paul Gasol, he didn't play in Thursday night's loss. And, of course, I've told you guys, keep an eye on those lineups. After Wednesday night, Jimmy Butler, just 12 for 35 over his last 3 games. He came out and said, ain't nothing wrong with me physically. Right now it's mentally. The ball's not going in. I let that affect me on both ends of the floor. It better turn around quick because I want to help this team get to the playoffs. Translation, he's still hurt. He's still hurt. He doesn't want to come out and say he's still hurt because teams will target his knee. They will target his injuries. So he doesn't want to come out and say it, but I still think he's hurt. He's not at 100%. It's obvious. Another one, Taj Gibson came out and said, after they lost to the Knicks for the second time, by double digits, mind you, on Thursday night, he said, hell yeah, I'm embarrassed. I take pride in wearing this jersey. I love wearing the Bulls jersey, especially what we've been through. I take pride in playing for Chicago. When I wear that jersey, I try to go out there and play my heart out. And it's frustrating when we come up short and we look at ourselves and we're losing to trash teams. Now, he threw in there, I don't want to criticize anybody, and that's going to hurt because the Knicks will read that somewhere. But we're the leaders. Derrick Rose should be saying that stuff. He should be coming to the forefront and saying that stuff. The coach should be saying that stuff. And look, maybe they are. We talked about teams that are hard to handicap, and I'm done with the Bulls. I'm done. Let's move on to the calendar crunch. Quick look at the crunch. The Nets, the Nuggets, the Bulls, the Cavs, the Kings, and Clippers all have crunches coming up. The Clips start on Sunday night with a back-to-back at home against the Nuggets and the Celtics before they hit the road with a game against the Wolves that they can easily overlook with a trip to Oklahoma City on deck. They can't catch the Thunder for the third spot unless it's a complete meltdown. But the Clippers need to get a win against a good team. They can't beat good teams. Their record against good teams is horrible. If they continue that for the end of the season, they're going to lose confidence, and that can be tough in the playoffs. You don't want to lose that. They could literally be ejected very, very early. But it's important to watch the calendar. You guys know this. Buckets per Day member Spence, he brought up to me the fact that the Magic were playing 6 games in 8 nights against the Pistons, and they were crushed. They lost by 16 points. Pistons were 6-point shocks, so they covered that by double digits. Keep an eye on the calendar. Quickly talk about second half wagering. I talked about this a lot during the season, off and on. I wanted to visit it again because the game that really caught my attention and made me want to talk about second half wagering was the Raptors against the Celtics Wednesday night. Buckets Brigade member Remington, he brought it to my attention. He said, man, it's weird that the C's are slight favorites before this. Now, that line dropped to a pick before tip-off, which was surprising because point guard Kyle Lowry sat out, resting a sore right elbow. Again, keep an eye on those lineups. But first half was very tight. The game was tied at the half, but the Celtics were 3-point favorites in the second half of a tied ball game. So to me, if you don't have time to watch the NBA games, the odds makers could really help you out. They basically can handicap the first half because when I saw that line, I had watched a little bit of the first half, but I was watching a different game, and I went, wow, the Celtics are 3-point favorites? They must be playing better than the score would indicate. So I took the Celtics, which again was a second half winner. Just something to keep an eye on. Not a rock-solid play at every time, but sometimes they can do that for you. The odds makers can actually handicap a game for you, so keep an eye on that. On a side note, Brad Stevens says Crowder is going to travel the team, a 5-game road trip. He's not going to play early, but he may play in it late. He's doing some light shooting, so keep an eye on that. Now, again, that goes into line value. This time of year when teams that are giving up on the season or playing teams that are fighting for a playoff spot, and so the line makers have to really adjust. It's almost like the season has started over. So when they meet, it's going to be tough to get a line. Really stuck out to me, the Pacers play the Pelicans. They were 2-touchdown favorites. Now, they didn't cover, although they probably should have. They won by 12 as 14-point line. But it just shows how much the lines are changing. It shows how much that the odds makers have to adjust. So just keep that in mind when you're betting this late in the season because teams are going to be overvalued. The Pacers are not 14 points better maybe than anybody, but definitely not better than the Pelicans. But it would have been hard to back the Pelicans in that situation. So quick look at the playoff picture like I always want to do. The Bulls are fading. The Wizards are out almost 2.5 games back. The Bulls are 1.5 game back. Pistons feeling a little bit better about that 8 spot, but they got a game against the Hornets. They have to win. The Hornets are still fighting with the Hawks, the Celtics, and the Heat to finish anywhere between 3 and 6. They're all a half a game apart. That's fun to watch. Raptors now, by the way, only 2 games behind the Cavs. Keep an eye on that.